Tell me, what are some of the dynamics going on there? Have you learned anything from your surveys about that issue?
Well, I think I agree that it is a dynamic issue as far as it's not necessarily, and our surveys haven't necessarily allowed us to say, well, what is your sexual orientation? But, and so that's not really what it's getting at, but it's getting at the mechanism of bullying, like how are they bullying others? So it really kind of goes back to that verbal aggression. How can I belittle somebody? How can I make them feel, less powerful in this situation?
Do you think that this has any connection with the fact that on some levels our society has matured a little bit about racial issues, not to gloss over that, but people no longer engage in the slurs and taunts of earlier years, but that's still okay in some ways, endorsed by the larger society, the anger or anti-feelings towards gay people. Do you think that has anything going on there?
Well, as far as like the differences between like sexual orientation and racism, we haven't necessarily looked at that. I do think that some of those things, like you said, like that society condones it, thinks it's okay or not that big of a deal, kind of goes back to what is involved in that individual. What do their parents say? What do their peers say? Kind of how does that work out, and what inhibits or promotes them that behavior?
So do you think that adult society then exhibits signs of bullying behavior? Do you think that we as grown-ups, so to speak, I have a 7-year-old son, so I'm into grown-ups, but as opposed to adults. But do we have those issues, do you think?
I think so. And in fact, there was just recently a piece on NPR about workplace bullying. And I think it's more common than we might think it is, but it's not studied as often. And it's not reported as often because oftentimes adults are afraid to report about it, afraid to speak up about it because they fear they might lose their jobs or people might look at them differently, things like that. But it is important for, in the workplace to find the proper channels to report workplace bullying so that you're not working in an atmosphere that condones negative behavior and that's just negative all around.
Do you think that there's such a thing as institutions engaging in bullying behavior? Well, regardless of the institution, whether it's a governmental entity or a corporation or whatever. And not trying to imply like the institution has a consciousness, but that it has maybe a societal makeup that may condone such a thing. Do you think that occurs?
Yeah, definitely. I think that kind of goes back to the workplace bullying as well. And like you said, just sort of the environment, because society definitely can promote a bullying atmosphere in that, for example, maybe like a high-powered lawyer. Well, maybe they worked their way up that way by maybe bullying others, or it served a social function for them. And so that's something that our society kind of condones as far as how can I be more powerful, how can I work my way up the ladder, and serving that social function.
Okay. Does it serve a social function for children then in the classroom and playground arena?
Definitely, goes back to that imbalance of power and strength, and then also popularity. So am I engaging in this behavior because all my peers are doing it, or because they'll think I'm cool if I'm bullying somebody else? And that can take place in a lot of different ways. So we found that mostly in elementary school, bullying takes the form of physical aggression more often, like physical or verbal threats. Whereas as they move into adolescence, it's more subtle, more relational aggression, like you can't hang out with us, don't talk to her because I don't want to be your friend, that type of thing. So definitely, as a way of achieving some social status, that's a reason that students engage in those behaviors.
It's a social status thing. Now, you said, have you started into your period of your study doing the comparison between cultures?
Not as of yet, because we just finished our data collection, and we collected over 3 different waves of data. Last year in the fall, and this spring, and then this year in the fall. And so we've just finished that up.
Okay, and did you take any particular age group?
We've looked at, we had 9 different schools across elementary, middle, and high schools in Lincoln Public Schools. And then we followed those students as they moved up a grade. So we did 5th through 9th, and then in our first 2 waves of data, and then it ended up being 6th through 10th by the 3rd wave.
Okay.